Redneck threw me into an ancient Egyptian pyramid, armed with a pistol, shotgun, and a stick of dynamite. As soon as it taught me to walk, this fast-paced platforming FPS had me running and gunning through hordes of undead creatures, Egyptian demons, and frogs of all things. I made my way to the top, saying anything that entered my path, but before I could even reach the halfway point, I died. With a name like Immortal Redneck, I'm sure you can imagine what happened next. Yes, I was revived outside the pyramid. Akin to some of my favourite roguelikes, I was given the option to buy stats, scrolls, and more to better my odds of surviving another round, or triangle if you catch my drift. Of course, this is just the surface, and the elements that get me playing run much longer, just like the River Nile. Before we can talk about the game basically being an FPS rogue legacy, we should talk about the redneck in the room, the name. On the downside, the name doesn't refer to an Egyptian god with a sunburnt neck. On the upside, apart from the opening cutscene involving a dune buggy accident and the scattered amounts of voiceover now and then, you would hardly know the main protagonist is a redneck. The flavoured text does add some meat to these Egyptian bones, but personally, Southerner is not my preferred comedic angle, and jokes like fucking taxes, man, just like the Fed fucking government, slip past my palate. Though not all jokes are this cringeworthy.
Fucking taxes, just like the Fed fucking government.
Let's get past the cringe and back into the crits. If you've ever played a fast-paced first-person game like Quake or Unreal Tournament, you'll know what to expect in terms of movement and gunplay. Aim assist on the guns is set fairly high, and you'll quickly get used to which ones work at what distance. While holding down the sprint button, you'll feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger's Rambo if he was dressed in a ninja suit. Though this run and gun approach isn't viable for every encounter. Learning the best ways to avoid attacks while working through enemies will be the key to getting to the top of the 3 individual pyramids that each increase in difficulty. To reach the apex, you will need to find the elevator in each of the several floors. Also, it wouldn't be a video game without a boss battle at the halfway point and end of each pyramid. These bosses were hard, but as with the normal encounters, it's all about learning how to avoid the attacks. Additionally, each floor is made up of rooms, and while the layout is randomly generated, the rooms themselves are picked from a pool that you will eventually learn. To prevent you from making a mad dash for the exit, they fill each room with enemies and don't let you leave until you've defeated all of them. You may also come across rooms with chests containing weapons, money, food, and ammo. Also, to put a spin on things, some of these rooms may require you to reach a chest in a time limit or without taking damage. One additional reward that I haven't mentioned is scrolls. Like all loot, these can drop off enemies and spew out from chests. These scrolls only last for the run they are found in, and you can hold as many as you find. The one downside to scrolls is you're basically playing Russian roulette. Most of the time, I got something really unique and helpful, but every now and then, I'd pull the trigger and get something unfavourable or even downright bad. And sometimes you'll get lucky and turn something unfavourable into something great. Like the time I got lose all weapons and increase damage, and then pulled a unlimited ammo for one gun, basically turning my assault rifle into an instant fire minigun. Dying is half the fun in Immortal Redneck. For every time you die, you know you have whatever cash you've earned on that run to spend on the skill tree or shop when you unlock it. The shop sells several unique items of its own, but the skill tree is where the majority of your cash will be burned. The tree will grow as you buy more abilities, which start off as basic stats but quickly evolve into extra jumps, run speed, free weapons and more. But perhaps the most exciting part of the skill tree is the extra classes you unlock. You see, the Redneck is just a starting class, or Egyptian god if you will. Before long, you'll have many classes to choose from, each with their own unique stats, active and passive abilities, and even weapons. Each class plays very differently, and experimenting which ones worked well was fun and engaging, though I could do without the Redneck voicing every god. The skill tree, character classes, and even the shop, all the bricks were in place for a great progression system. But as I built my way into the latter half of the game, the cracks started to show. It shares the same fault lines that games like Has Been Heroes had before it, and that is, dungeon runs last too long. Majority of my runs lasted longer than 30 minutes, which meant I had plenty of cash, but hit a brick wall when I realised playing again meant possibly another 30 plus minutes of intense action. The lengthy pyramid runs wasn't a massive issue until later in the game. It hit like a ton of bricks at around 8 hours in. At this point, I'd purchased most of the unique upgrades, and all that was left were stat increases, which at this point were rather expensive. In the end, I was progressing, but the time versus reward ratios felt unbalanced. Lastly, I played mostly while docked, but when I did try handheld, the graphics took a hit and looked a little muddy. Additionally, as someone who's not anti-Joy-Con, I still found the Pro Controller necessary for the precise aiming and quick movement. Over my 10 to 15 hours of gameplay, of which I did not complete all 3 pyramids, the game crashed 3 times on me. Luckily, it appeared to save after each room, so no progress was lost. Despite the latter half of the name and game, Immortal Redneck managed to add a splash of colour to the already crowded roguelike genre. These roguelike elements were exactly what drew me in. The progression system held my attention, and the fast-paced combat made me feel like a god. It's far from perfect, but the game took its genre of origin and tossed in something unique, and colourful, and fun to play. If the words FPS Rogue-like have even slightly intrigued you, then let's just say the hieroglyphics are on the wall.